How we doing, everybody? Welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It is Thursday in the great state of Wisconsin, and we are talking Wisconsin sports. We have everything today from the Brewers to the Bucks and everything in between. Badger football news, a little bit of talk about the Packers here. We have another injury report to catch up on here. Yesterday, if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, definitely check out the interview with Allie. Great interview. Just wanted to get it out there. And today we are back to Wisconsin sports. So we're going to jump right into it with the Brewers. And the big news for the Brewers is that the Wisconsin Assembly actually approved a $546 million funding plan to keep the team through 2050. It looks like Assembly lawmakers voted 69 to 27 there. So a resounding vote there on Tuesday in support of the $546 million financial plan that'll keep the Brewers in Wisconsin until at least 2050. Last month, a press conference was held at American Family Field where it was initially rolled out what was going to happen, any new taxes for the people of Wisconsin, but the state would give the Brewers $60.8 million next fiscal year, then up to $20 million annually through 2045 through 2046. Additionally, the city of Milwaukee would contribute a total of $202 million, and the Milwaukee County would pitch in $135 million by the year of 2050 when the proposed lease was up. So that is keeping Brewer baseball in Milwaukee. American Family Field, as we know, is owned largely by Southeast Wisconsin Professional Baseball Park District. It's a state agency. Back in February, March, Tony Evers put out a $104 billion budget proposal where $290 would go towards the stadium, combined with $70 million that was already set aside by the stadium district to pay for renovations over the next 20 years or so. The new proposal released last week reduced the city and county's amounts to only $67.5 million over 27 years in hopes to attract more support from Democratic lawmakers. Many within Wisconsin's government, like Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, called the proposal a win for Wisconsin, saying the Brewers, like we've all talked about, Wisconsin would lose money over the loss of the Brewers here. Dollars come in from the Brewers being in Milwaukee, just like having the Bucks in Milwaukee, having the Packers in Green Bay. You're going to lose revenue as a state if you lose a team like the Brewers. The Brewers bring in a ton of revenue each year for the state. So that's where getting a deal like this done, keeping the Brewers in Milwaukee is going to be huge for not only the state, but for cities around and for, well, the grand scheme of thing, to keep money in the state, in the government's pocket, basically. But to keep Wisconsin here. Or to keep Brewer baseball in Wisconsin. So good news there on the Brewers front. It looks like, though, Milwaukee Brewer, they're talking about a ticket tax right now. And Democratic Senator Tim Carpenter said that the idea is being seriously considered in bipartisan talks. The Brewers oppose it right now, so thank the Lord the Brewers are behind us on this one. The pair of bills passed by the Assembly on Monday would keep the team in Milwaukee through 2050, like we talked about, but they're tugging to how the ticket tax on Brewers games could change the deal. The total fan attendance number of home games this season was at 2.5 million, but now Carpenter, who represents this area, believes that adding a fee on every ticket sold. He said, "Do you think it might be an extra $2 to $3? Carpenter answered with no specific amount, but I think that they would be in the range of this. So they want to add a little bit extra tax on there to try to make a little bit more money towards this renovations and everything like that. You know, I see what they're trying to do with it. Does it suck? Yeah, it's going to suck. But in the grand scheme of things, if you keep it as low, an extra $2 to $3 fee on every ticket sold, it could have brought in an extra $5 million to $7.5 million for the Brewers. If you think about that in the grand scheme of things, that could also help in being able to pay for these renovations and everything in between. $2 to $3. If they keep it at $2 to $3, I don't see a huge problem with it. I see why people oppose it. And I'm not a fan of having to pay even more for those tickets to go to that game. But at the same time, looking at it at the grand scheme of things, to keep Brewer baseball in Milwaukee, keep that tradition there, everything in between, is it worth it? It might be. It might really be. If they pass it, if it is an extra $2 to $3 per ticket to get whatever ticket you're going to get that day, I I think we're just going to have to live with it and move on. I think it's not a terrible idea. I understand why people would be upset, like I said, but I think it's going to be it's what you expect. They're going to find ways to make extra money when they can. Now, in the last bit of Brewer news right now, it looks like Bally Sports, Wisconsin, or Bally Sports. We all knew about the whole thing with Bally Sports. They went bankrupt. Certain states are losing Bally Sports. Bally Sports, Wisconsin has hung on so far, and heading into the Bucks season right now, it's looking like Bally Sports will still air the games that aren't on national TV, so like ESPN and everything in between. That'll include the Bucks' second home game against the Atlanta Hawks, October 29th. But, they're going to be on TNT TV, whatever NBA or national broadcast group wants to have the Bucks, they're going to have. But anyone who's followed the saga of Bally Sports and what's been going on knows that they've been bankrupt, and certain teams you look at, like the Diamondbacks, were dropped by Bally. They lost that right. So slowly by slowly, they're starting to get away and have to go to different programs. So when is it going to be up for Wisconsin? That's what we're waiting to see. Now, it looks like Major League Baseball told the Houston Bankruptcy Court that Diamond Sports Group should not be granted another extension to arrive at Chapter 11 reorganizational plan. Nothing that Diamond's cash has dwindled by nearly 90% since seeking bankruptcy protection in March. The Brewers were one of 5 clubs participating in the joint filing along with Atlanta, Cleveland, Detroit, and Texas. Diamond is asking for a November 29th deadline to submit a plan, which would give creditors until January 29th to approve it. The current deal between Sinclair, Diamond, and Charter, which supports Spectrum servicing Milwaukee, expires February 29th before the end of the NBA season and before the start of the 2024 baseball season. Renewal is it's not guaranteed yet, and I'm starting to think that I don't think a deal is going to get done, to be honest with you, and I think that they're going to lose the Bucks. I think they're going to lose the Bucks towards the end of that season, and then I think that it's going to move to the Brewers. That at the beginning of that regular season, there's going to be a different television group that's going to take it. You look at like NBA teams are offering own broadcasts at this point. They're going to launch. Looks like the Utah Jazz has actually announced they're going to launch a direct-to-consumer service for game broadcasts. The Phoenix Suns announced something similar shortly thereafter. So it looks like NBA teams are kind of taking it in their own way to be able to do this. So it really does look like they're going to lose the Bucks, the Brewers, everything in between coming up here at the end of the season, going into March. So Brewer baseball will not be on Bally by the looks of it. They might figure something out and keep it going, but my best judgment is telling me we're going to have a different TV provider come Brewer baseball season. Even towards the end of the Bucks season, they're going to have to find different ways to get them on TV. But with that, we're going to jump over to the Bucks real quick because we're talking about them. We're going to jump into the Bucks. They played a game yesterday. They had the Oklahoma City Thunder, or 2 days ago, the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Bucks. Oklahoma took the win in that one, 124 to 101. Checking out the box in that game. Looking at the Bucks, Giannis did play in this one. He had 25 minutes played, 8 for 12 from the floor, 2 for 2 from the line. He had 10 rebounds and 18 points for the Bucks. Beasley led the team in scoring 20 points on the ball game, 6 for 11 from downtown, 7 for 13 from the floor in this one. He also collected 4 rebounds in this game. Robin Lopez started in this one for the Bucks. 17 minutes, 0 for 1 from the floor, 0 for 1 from downtown. He had 3 rebounds. And Damian Lillard also played 25 minutes, 2 for 11 from the floor, 0 for 5 from downtown, 1 for 3 from the line, 5 points. Connington, 2 for 6 from downtown, 2 for 8 from the floor, 6 points to go with it. Looking at the bench for the Bucks in this one, Green had 13 points off the bench. He played 13 minutes. Jackson Jr. had 12 off the bench for the Bucks, 20 minutes, 5 for 13 from the floor, 2 for 8 from downtown. A struggle from long range for the Bucks in this one, 19 for 52. Everybody played for the most part in this one. We did not see Middleton in this game, but everybody else had a chance to show a little bit in this one. Looks like Drew Timme. You always want Drew Timme to do good. Had 1 point for the Bucks in this one. 1 for 2 from the line. Other than that, that was about it for notable scoring in this ball game here. Bucks struggled mightily. 39% from the field in this one, 36 from 3, and 62% from the line. They had 40 rebounds in this ball game. Looking over at the Thunder, Thunder played a pretty good game. Holmgren led the Thunder in this one along with Williams, both of them with 18 points in this ball game. Holmgren went 2 for 3 from downtown. He also had a 2 for 5 effort from the line in this one and 3 rebounds. Williams 6 for 10 from the field in this ball game, 2 for 4 from downtown, 4 for 5 from the line. Gildress Alexander, he had 10 points for him. Giddey had 19. I said that Holmgren and Williams led the team. Giddey had 19 for the Thunder in this ball game, and Dort had 6 points for him in that starting lineup. On the bench, Joe came up with 11 points, 3 for 5 from downtown in this ball game, and that's about it for notables for the Thunder in this one. They did shoot a little bit better than the Bucks from the field, 56% from the field, 48 for 85 in this one. Also better from downtown, a lot less threes. 39 attempts for the Thunder in this one, 18 makes in this ball game, 46% from the three-point line in this game. Chet Holmgren, he's showing that he's slowly developing into a pretty good player for the Thunder. Thunder have some pieces to build on here. It's just a matter of if they can put it all together. And with the draft picks that they have over the coming years, I think they're going to have a huge possibility to get back on track fast down there, especially with some top draft picks that they're going to get in these upcoming drafts. But with that, I want to jump over into the Packers because the Packers, they went out and they signed free agent running back James Robinson. And Robinson, he's been hit or miss throughout his career. You look at Robinson, trying to pull up his stats here real quick. You look at Robinson through his 2020 season with the Jaguars. He looked like a steal. 240 attempts. He had 1,070 yards, a 4.5 average, 7 touchdowns, and 49 receptions on the year. 2021, he was still a consistent back. 164 attempts, 767 yards, 4.7 an average, and 8 touchdowns with 31 receptions. 2022 is where he started to struggle. 81 attempts, 340 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 9 receptions. 2022 with the Jets, 29 attempts, he had 85 yards, 2 receptions. So James Robinson bounced around a little bit. His rookie season was sensational. The best in NFL history for a rookie undrafted free agent, actually. So he looked great in that rookie season, but after that rookie season, it's slowly gone downhill for him. He signed with New Orleans Saints after the 2023, no, he didn't sign with the Saints. He was with the Giants. He was with the Giants, and the Giants released him off the practice squad. That is where he has come from here. But does this spell trouble for A.J. Dillon? Now, bringing in Robinson, we know he's a dynamic back. He showed that with the Jaguars. He actually took over the starting position after Leonard Fournette was let go by the Jaguars. But looking at it down the road there, he started to struggle. Now, you're getting a dynamic back with James Robinson. If you can keep him healthy, keep him out there on the field, he's a dynamic back. Now, A.J. Dillon this season with the Packers has struggled. We've watched his struggles. We've talked about his struggles. We've seen it. Does this spell trouble for A.J. Dillon? I think it might. Aaron Jones is coming back healthy. And fingers crossed, knock on some wood, he's going to be out there for the long run here now, heading into this next week against the Broncos. He's expected to be a full go. That's what we're hearing right now. So getting him back, Now you have Robinson on the practice squad. Does Robinson come in and take A.J. Dillon's spot? I don't think so right away. I think Aaron Jones coming back, you're going to have A.J. Dillon resume his secondary role on that offense in the backfield. I don't think he's going to be used as much anymore with Aaron Jones back. I think he's going to be used more as the bruiser when we need him. So you bring in Robinson. So looking at the grand scheme, I don't see where Robinson fits in unless if he comes in for Emmanuel Wilson. If you were decided Emmanuel Wilson isn't going to cut it for you, and we drop him down, we cut him, maybe sign him back to the practice squad. Now we bring Robinson off the practice squad. Then he gets into that rotation. Then he still has to prove himself to this Packers team. That's where I think my weight is right now for A.J. Dillon. I think it becomes worrisome for Dillon now seeing that the Packers went out of their way to jump and grab a running back to kind of solidify that room where they've struggled all season long. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to make any drastic moves right away. I think they're going to try and wait it out with A.J. Dillon, see what he can do. James Robinson's in their back pocket if they need him. And if he proves himself, it's worth it. If he doesn't prove anything on the practice squad, doesn't prove anything in when you're watching him work, then there's no hurt. There's no hurt to it. A.J. Dillon's still out there. If he proves himself and you think he can be a dynamic back behind Aaron Jones in the backfield, I think you go for it. I think you go all in. Right now with this Packers team, they can use any firepower they can get. And if James Robinson is that guy, sure, let it run. Let it ride. He's a veteran running back. He's a been there, done that guy. He's had some successful seasons. But it also leads back into what we always talked about with the Brewers, Wisconsin sports. We love to take chances on guys who they've been there, done that before, but now we're banking on them getting back to it. If he gives me 3/4 of what he did in his rookie or even his second season with the Jaguars, I'm all in. I'm all in on James Robinson. I think he could be a dynamic secondary back behind Aaron Jones there. I think on that depth chart, he is your number 2 then. But if he comes in, doesn't really prove anything, no harm, no foul. We can cut him, get rid of him, whatever you got to do. Nothing gets hurt. Nobody's feelings get hurt, anything like that. If A.J. Dillon starts to play again, starts to show that he's worthy of that number 2 spot in the Packers backfield, awesome. Now we don't have to worry about it. Now maybe Robinson becomes that number 3. He's an option. He's an option if you need him. Maybe there's some kind of play set where you can get him in there. He's a dynamic back. He is. I just think people started to worry or started to talk about A.J. Dillon getting canned too fast. I think he's got a little bit of time left to prove himself, and especially with Aaron Jones coming back, I think the workload is more on Aaron Jones' plate than it is on anybody coming in behind him there. With that, though, I want to jump over into the Packers, looking at the injury report, and it looks like, looking at what Matt LaFleur said, he's doubtful this week on Campbell. They came out talking about Campbell, and he looks like he's doubtful on him this week. And obviously give him up till game time to prove it that he's ready to rock. Campbell's starting to get back out there a little bit. There's no setbacks so far. He's just working through it right now. So maybe see Campbell back after the Broncos game. You don't want to rush something like this with an injury that he had. Maybe after the Broncos, you should be able to beat the Broncos. I mean, we're going to cover that. We're going to talk about it. You should be able to take the Broncos pretty handily, as much of a dumpster fire as they are right now. But at the same time, the Packers have been struggling. Coming out of a bye week after a loss, they've been struggling. This is going to be a test for the Packers, but I don't think rushing Campbell back, getting him hurt even longer, is the answer to it. I think with getting other guys back, from what I saw, the Packers were getting back, looking at the injury report here, I did see that Quay Walker is practicing again. He's limited at practice. Eric Stokes was back. He's limited at practice also. Darnell Savage. Aaron Jones back at practice. Jenkins was back. Devontae Wyatt was limited at practice. And Zane Anderson. So everybody's back at practice right now besides Campbell. Everybody else is back. look for some of these guys to return against the Broncos here. I think you get Savage back, you get Walker, maybe see Eric Stokes. They talked about him week before. Maybe we're going to see Eric Stokes in this one. Also, getting Jenkins back on that offensive line will be huge. Devontae Wyatt, getting him fully ready to go, and having Aaron Jones back is massive for the Packers here heading into this Broncos game. Aaron Jones adds stability on this Packers offense, whether it's in the pass game or it's in the run game. Nobody notices how much Aaron Jones is utilized and how much he's needed until he's hurt. And we've noticed over the past couple weeks, Aaron Jones coming back could be a game changer for the Packers, could add a little bit more comfortable feeling for Jordan Love back there in the huddle, at the line, having that presence of Aaron Jones. I've been there, done that guy. He's worked with Rodgers. He's a veteran. He knows what needs to be done. I think that's going to be huge for this offense, getting Aaron Jones back there and having Quay Walker ready to rock. Same with Savage, maybe even Stokes. This defense is going to be feeling fresh, and they're going to be feel ready to go here against the Broncos. So good news for the Packers. They're starting to get healthy finally, and that's what we've been waiting to see. Now, looking at this Packers-Broncos game, the Broncos, like we were just talking about, have been a dumpster fire this season. There hasn't been anything going right for the Broncos. It started out terrible with Sean Payton coming into the fold and basically saying that Hackett was a terrible coach and having to talk about it and running his mouth. Started out bad. Russell Wilson has been struggling, and I don't expect Russell Wilson to be back on this team next year. This team all around has had its struggles all season long. This is a matchup the Packers have to take advantage of. The Packers have been struggling, heading now to the Broncos, a 1-5 Broncos team who lost handily to our lost some games pretty handily. I mean, they got shellacked by the Dolphins. Commanders beat them. They came back against the Bears, but then the Jets took care of them and the Chiefs. The Packers have to send a statement in this game that they are ready to rock and we're back. Because if you go on and I talked about it. From here on out, I look at the schedule for the Packers and I say, they should be able to win that game. They should be able to win that game. They should be able to win this game. But if they lost it, I wouldn't even be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. This game here, Aaron Jones coming back, it's a spark plug. It's like the car needed it. We needed it to run again. He's back. He adds that spark. I think the Packers win this game against the Broncos. I really do. I just think in this one, it's going to be a test for the Packers of how well can they play against a Broncos team who is mightily struggling. Are you going to play down to their level, or are you going to pick it up a little bit and take care of business like you should? Week 1 against the Bears, you took care of business. You took it to the Bears. Then you look at like the Falcons game or the Raiders game. You played down levels. Jordan Love struggled against the Raiders. The offense struggled against the Raiders. But you're playing down to these teams' level. Broncos, struggling team. Packers need to put them away early. Put the gas pedal down and don't let up. Find something that works, whether it's in the run game, if it's short, methodical offense, if the deep ball is open. Whatever it is, find it and use it. Don't go away from it. If the run game's rolling, don't go away from it. Don't force Jordan Love into 3rd and longs. Get some yardage for him. Right away, crack the line of scrimmage. Get 5 yards. Get a 2nd and 5. Start it out right, and then give Jordan Love short yardage to have to gain that first down. Don't expect Jordan Love and this offense to constantly get a 3rd and 10. Constantly, they start at a 1st and 15 because of penalties before the snap is even there. That's where the Packers need to focus on in this week here. But with that, that's enough about the Packers. We're going to talk a lot more about the Packers. We're going to preview this game against the Broncos tomorrow here. But we're going to look at the Badgers here because Braden Locke did come out. They talked to Braden Locke, and it sounds like from what we're seeing, Braden Locke is now the starter at Madison. And it said, looking at some of the things I was reading, it's going to be his first start since he was in high school. So, especially now that the game's on the road, too, they were talking to him a little bit. And he would say, I definitely say there's a little bit of a different level of pressure. But at the same time, level of comfort because, like I said, you have all week to prepare. We talked about it. Locke got thrown into a terrible situation against Iowa for your first appearance for the Badgers in a role that was important. He got a couple looks earlier on in the season, but he hasn't played in a game where they're trailing or it's in the heat of battle. And he gets thrown in and expected the world out of him from a team that was struggling all around from the coaching staff down. And looking at what he said, you know the situation that you're going to get thrust into, what's going to be asked of you, to where last week was kind of on the fly. But to your point, every single week you want to prepare like you're a starter. You want to know what's going on and be involved in the game plan. Like he just said, he simply said it. You got thrown in on the fly last week. Coming into this week now, you are the starter. You know you're the starter leading into it. You can prepare all week to be that starter. I talked a lot about Block and how I was feeling about him on Monday. Tuesday, dialed it back. Really looking at the grand scheme of things after hearing him talk in this interview, I fully put into spectrum what he was saying and that he was 100% correct. You cannot expect the world out of a guy who hasn't started a game since high school. Now we're throwing him into a game where the offense is terrible. We can't get the ball moving. We're constantly starting at the 6-yard line, and there's nothing going on. And now we expect him to just come in with his back to the end zone and make every throw he's got to make. Going into this one, feel a little bit more confident in him to see what is going to happen. He went on to say he wants to put the Badgers on his back in this one. I think, yes, there is pressure, and yes, I want to win, and yes, I want to play well. And I want to put these guys on my back and take charge of this thing. But at the same time, I just got to focus on doing my job, play in and play out, and getting the ball needs of it. Right there, you're listening to a guy who, if you listen to the interview, confident in himself. He's going to go out there. He's going to be able to put the team on his back and do what he's got to do. Not try to do too much. Just do what he's got to do in this one. I think the Badgers to take the pressure off of Locke, especially in his first start. Braylon Allen's going to have a big game. I think you're going to have to utilize Acker in this one. And I think you're going to want to run the ball a little bit. Maybe run a little bit of play action just to get Locke's feet wet. Don't expect him to be able to make the deep ball right away. I mean, he can sling it. We know he can sling it. We watched him. He can sling it. But I would love to see the Badgers kind of come out in a slow, methodical offense. We're going to round and pound. We're going to throw a little short dump-off passes to our running backs, to our tight ends, maybe a wide receiver there on a hitch route, anything like that. Keeping it short, sweet, and simple for Locke, I think, is going to be a key to the Badgers here against Illinois. Not trying to do too much. Don't make Locke do more than he has to do. That's where mistakes are going to happen, especially in your first start, especially in a game at Illinois with the thought and you know it's in the back of their heads. They all know they have Ohio State the week after. Everybody knows it. They know it. It's not like they can just completely shut that off in their head. If they can, kudos to them. But you know every team, every player, when they have that big game coming up, they know they have that huge opponent on the schedule. They get put into a trap game. I hope this doesn't end up as a trap game. They're looking ahead to Ohio State. Now they lose this game to Illinois. They set themselves up terribly because now going against Ohio State, you lose that game, which I'm a huge Badger fan, but that's going to be a rough one. You go to 4 losses heading into this rest of the schedule here. It's going to be a struggle to climb your way back. It really is. And you can't really afford another loss, especially with Iowa hanging out at the top of the Big Ten West now. You're at the mercy of every game now is important because that Ohio State game is still there. You lost to Washington State. You lost to Iowa. You now have to win the games that you got to win. Ohio State's going to be a struggle. I know it's going to be a struggle. But everything past that, you have to be able to pull off those games. And this game against Illinois, you know, you're in a state right now where you have to be looking at just Illinois. Ohio State's a game. It's a game at this point. You're not playing for an undefeated season. You are now playing to win the games you got to win. And this Illinois game's a big one. The week after, Ohio State's a big one. Ohio State's a big game, but at the same time, we know what we're going to get. We really do deep down. We know what we're going to get. We're hopeful, but we know what we're going to see on the field there against Ohio State. So this Illinois game is huge. We're going to be talking about it in our game day preview, along with the game day preview for the Packers tomorrow here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go. But with that, we're going to look at Wisconsin recruiting right now, because the Badgers, they looks like, I just saw today, one of their top 2024 recruits, right here. The Badgers signed Drew Braun. He's a preferred walk-on. So they've now landed 2 in the last 2 days now. So with Braun coming in 2024 as a linebacker, he's coming in. He had 4 offers, including Eastern Illinois, Lindenwood, Miami of Ohio, and South Dakota State. But he chose to come to the Badgers as a walk-on. Looks like coming out, he is 6'2", 215 pounds, out of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. He's considered a 2-star and 25th best player in the state for the 2024 class. He was committed to South Dakota State, but a visit to Madison this past weekend led to the flip to Wisconsin as a preferred walk-on. He watched the game against Iowa and decided, I need to go to Wisconsin. I don't understand that. I really don't understand that one. But came to Wisconsin. Coming to Wisconsin now, he's going to join 2024 quarterback Milos. That is a tough last name. Spazovecki. We're going to call him Milos. Milos works. You guys out there, you look him up. You can pronounce his name. Tell me how to say it. But that's what I'm going to call him for now, Milos. He's the second. So those two together, 2 walk-on commitments for the Badgers the last 2 days. Huge news for the Badgers on the recruiting front there. Keeping some guys in state here, coming to Madison. But with that, that is about all I have for today. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to be talking a lot more Badger football. The preview for the Illinois game on Saturday. We're also going to be talking Packer football. We got another game this weekend against the Broncos coming off the bye week here. I'm expecting good things out of the Packers. We're going to preview that, and we're going to figure out what else there is to talk about in Wisconsin sports. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. Deuces.